Isaac Kamande, Director of Youth Affairs at the Ministry of Devolution, but more importantly for our discussion, he is the former Chief Economist at the Ministry of Education. Kamande, thank you so much for joining us on the Citizen Business Center tonight. Now it's 4 weeks, teachers are still on strike, children are still at home, the government has now closed all public schools indefinitely. How did we get here?
Thank you, Chebet. This is the way we got here. The teachers have gone out of class. Back in 2012, the government appointed a task force, and that task force was mandated with aligning the education sector to the new constitution. And arising out of the deliberations of the task force, a report was produced, and that report is the one that details all areas of education that require reforms. And the stakeholdership included TSC, it included the unions, it included development partners, it included the civil society. And these are the partners who agreed on the reform agenda that now is being carried out by the Ministry of Education and its partners. That is how it all started, because it was desirable that the education sector be aligned to the new constitution. Now, to implement the reforms, we require the participation of everybody, and it has to be within the context of implementation of the whole constitution. As you are aware, from January 2013, excuse me, the whole constitution is now in force. And there are other legal provisions that have to be respected. And in this case, there is the budgetary process. And the budgetary process borrows from the vision. We are on Vision 2030. And from Vision, we implement Vision 2030 through medium-term plans. And there is a medium-term plan on education and training. And it's that medium-term plan that now we are implementing between 2013 and 2017. Out of that medium-term plan, we roll it into a 3-year medium-term expenditure framework. And that is where the budgetary figures now come in.
Tell me, was pay one of the agendas?
It was, because teacher management includes remuneration and all that goes with the management of teachers. So with this,
and how was that discussion carried forward with specifics to pay increase for the teachers with the task force that you're talking about?
So as you're aware, I've just said that everything has to be considered within a context, and then the context in this case is the activities of other commissions, particularly the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, which is mandated to harmonize salaries of public officers, me included. So the Salaries and Remuneration Commission participates in the budgetary process, and they advise the government on the desirable direction with respect to salaries and remuneration. And it's on the basis of such advice that the Ministry of Education has been itemizing its budget together with the Teachers Service Commission, in that education and training comprises TSC and the Ministry of Education, Science and Technology. So all along, we have been having the 3 stakeholders participate in the budgetary process. Towards the conclusion of budgets, as you may be aware, Chebet, there is public hearings. And these public hearings are open to everybody, particularly those who hold dear a sector. So you'll find stakeholders in agriculture, in education, in manufacturing, all called to KICC to discuss matters pertaining to their sector. And the unions and other stakeholders in education have been participating fully in those discussions.
Talking still about those discussions, how did the 50 to 60% pay hike, come about, given that these negotiations have been going on for a long time?
Negotiations between employers and employees start from somewhere. So usually employees are quick to calculate inflationary tendencies, the cost of living, and it's on the basis of this that they build up an argument that is presented to employers. So teachers and their unions are faced with the same issues, and they build up a case to bring up arguments to the employer to consider remunerative increases.
which numbers should teachers believe? The government is saying one thing, the opposition is saying another thing. So, who should the teachers believe?
The government has a long tradition of compiling data and analyzing it and making it public through various media, through print media. On an annual basis, we print the economic survey in the month of May, and that is what guides the finalization of the budget. So at the very least, the teachers and their unions should believe what government publications that are not published with the intention of communicating to teachers, but communicating to the whole country. You talked about the new agenda, and I'm just wondering, have we now reached a time where perhaps the education sector should face a new discussion about devolving it to the counties? I know already that some aspects of the education sector have been devolved already, but should it go the same way that it did with the health sector, for instance? Let me say this, that the education sector is almost fully decentralized. By decentralization, we mean passing on responsibility to schools, so to speak, because at the school level we have boards of management, and these boards of management have a lot of responsibilities with respect to management of education. The national government is left with subventions, sending finances to those institutions, but if there is anybody to be held responsible in the management of the schools, it's the local communities who comprise the management and the governance institutions that manage education in this country.
As we finalize, Kamande, are the teachers' demands justified in the current economic space?
They are not justified when you look at the economy as a whole, because there are so many demands placed upon this economy to finance. You can look at the way the security is behaving these days. You can look at agriculture. You can look, we are now expecting El Nino, rains, emergency, disaster preparedness. So there are so many demands upon public funds that we may have just to encourage teachers to come back to the boardroom so that we can talk and move back to the reform agenda that they walked out of and mobilize their constituencies to actually now come up with a proposed. In fact, it was not 50 to 60%. They had started with the 300%.
All right. Isaac Kamande, Director of Youth Affairs at the Ministry of Devolution and a former Chief Economist in the Ministry of Education. Thank you so much for joining us on the Business Center.